feminism is selfish and utterly wrong. And I would prove that traditionalism is without a shadow of a doubt the correct way to do things. Feminists can argue that feminism and modernism is the correct way to do things and the correct way to go forward. And they will argue those lopsided and factually wrong points to the grave, while traditionalists like me and hopefully you would argue our points to the grave, because we know that it has been the correct way forward, and is certainly the correct way forward as well. And so this is exactly why feminism is selfish and wrong. Firstly, feminism merely benefits women, leaving no benefit and even detriment to everyone else. Even the nuclear family is falling apart, because feminism is pushing equality. Equality means that the mother and father take on equal responsibility for everything in the house, physically, mentally, spiritually and financially, while not playing into their biological strengths. So both of the parents will have to work full-time jobs to maintain the house because that is what is equal. And having two parents that are working so much and are away from home for so long will mean that the children in the house will end up being programmed by other people besides the parents. Whereas a traditional nuclear family would have the father out working and the mother at home taking care of their children. Which means that the children will be able to take on the ideologies of the parents because the mother will always be home. And the father can do what he has with his limited time to teach his children. But feminism means that the parents are out working, and the children will be spending more time with their teachers and babysitters rather than their own parents. Which means that the ideologies of the teacher or babysitter would be subconsciously programmed into the children, leaving the children to be argumentative against their own parents because they believe other things, which disrupts the household and makes it an unsettling place. I can somewhat relate to this because my parents worked a lot when I was growing up, which in turn made me very argumentative against my parents to this very day. They never taught me about how I should do things or how I should navigate the world, which meant that I learned in whatever way I could and then argued when they tried to push their ways onto me, because I had a different ideology from them and just didn't agree. But I was fortunate to have turned out good. There are many young men who will go down the wrong path in life, because they will never get any sort of guidance from their parents. And I would have been another one of them if I didn't have the constant underlying desire to get things done. And my point being that I have taken a completely different trajectory in life than my parents expected me to. And they are of course worried because I don't have a safe employed job, because they just don't understand the path in life that I'm trying to take. But of course I could be going down the wrong trajectory in life, and they would tell me that I'm doing wrong and I would argue back against them because I have a completely different ideology. So it is a very thin line when it comes to turning out good or bad when having a different ideology and being argumentative against your parents. And another thing that detriments children is the fact that they will not have a masculine role model to look up to, that both the son and daughter need so much. As traditionalism means that the father is the masculine one and can be the role model that is needed, as masculinity means commanding respect, being courageous, being virtuous, taking care of your loved ones, taking lead, working towards something that is bigger than yourself, and trying to make the world a better place. And the father would teach all of that to his son, who would grow up to be another masculine man who makes the world a better place. And the daughter would see the father behave very masculine and would hear all the things he says, and will be subconsciously attracted to men who are similar to him, which of course is a biological mechanism and is very good in this case. However, without a masculine role model, the son doesn't know how to navigate the world because he doesn't have a masculine role model to teach him, and he instead has teachers, babysitters, a feminine father and a masculine mother teaching him how to behave. And none of them will be strong enough to instill an ideology into a rebellious young man. So it means that the son will navigate the world in whatever way he can, until he meets a masculine role model to look up to and to mould his behaviour like. And that masculine role model could be a drug dealer, a degenerate, or just something not good. And if there were a strong masculine force, it will cause the son to take after them. And the daughter would suffer just as much, if not more. She will subconsciously start being attracted to men who are similar to her father if she respects him. And because her father is a feminine man, it means that she will find herself being attracted to feminine men, while she takes up the masculine role in their relationships, which means that her true feminine core will not be fulfilled, and will end up growing resentful towards her feminine man. However, if she does not respect him, it will mean that she has no role model to mould her future partners to, which in turn leads to her latching on to any attention that any man gives her, and will be the kind of woman who has daddy issues, has low self-esteem, and lets men mistreat her over and over again. Which means that she will very likely find herself with a bad, loser or degenerate man, who will likely mistreat her and their children, either by purpose or by accident. I want you to think about all the people who you know who have been raised by a single mother. Are their lives good, or do they have underlying and undealt problems that are still bothering them to this day, which they deal with through unhealthy coping mechanisms? And it would be the same story if the man is demoted to be a stay-at-home dad, and nobody would ever listen to the father because he is a follower. The mother is in charge because the women want equality, but the woman will end up taking on the masculine role because that is what she wants, whereas the man likely doesn't care, leaving him to be a follower, and nobody looks up to followers. Which again leaves the children with no strong masculine role model. The son doesn't have anybody to look up to, and the daughter doesn't know what her future man should be like, even though the father is always at home. In addition to all of that, the feminist women don't even remain happy, since the large majority of women have a feminine core, and it is only a very small minority of women who actually have a masculine core. So the feminist woman who has a feminist core will inevitably become resentful towards her feminine husband, because deep down she wants to be taken care of and wants freedom and love. But she doesn't have either, and doesn't even know that she wants that. She will not understand why she is so miserable, even though she's following the path that society is laying out for her, leaving her with a choice to either stay with her husband or leave him, with the more likely option being that she stays with him, as he listens and does what he is told. But him being compliant and passive means that the woman's feminine core does not get fulfilled, likely leading her to go cheat with a man who is dominant and masculine. And lastly, us men suffer. Everything already mentioned is leaving the men depressed, as they listen to their woman, but do not feel needed nor respected. They feel unfulfilled with love and purpose because they can't spend as much time as they really want to pursuing their purpose, because him and the woman need to have equal responsibilities of the house and children. They are following the path that society and their woman is laying out for them. They are listening and being feminine men, which means that they spend most of their time doing things that don't fulfill their core, leaving them sad, confused and depressed. I'm sure that you can see without me having to explain why feminism is so selfish. Everything mentioned happening for the benefit of the woman, so women can be independent and strong. Secondly, women will never be as good of men as men, and men will never be as good of women as women. It means that with feminism causing men and women to drift away from their biological strengths, it's causing both men and women not to be the best version of themselves, as women are now expected and some even want to be career driven and work like men, even though they're not as strong-willed, disciplined, competitive, nor driven as men. And men are now expected and some even want to be family driven and to care and nurture like women, even though they're not as sensitive, kind, caring, compassionate nor empathetic as women. So it means that women have to try much harder to achieve success in their careers, when it would be much easier for a man to achieve that by comparison, because he is already genetically programmed to do good in career and work, with him being more strong-willed, disciplined and driven. And by the same token, men will have to try much harder to achieve success in caring for their family, when it would be much easier for a woman to achieve that by comparison, because she is already genetically programmed to take care of her family very well, with her being more sensitive, caring, emotional, empathetic and kind. But because feminism is very much alive, it means that we have watered down versions of men and women roaming the earth, neither of them specialising in anything, nor being too masculine or feminine. Women want to stretch the idea of what a woman is so to not be constricted by society, and it makes no sense. I will directly take quotes from an article I found called What Makes a Modern Woman. Honestly, none of them make sense, but this is just one for example. I am unapologetically myself. I wear so many hats that I sometimes get confused with myself and at times slip up and mess up. And yet I manage to stand up and power through as gracefully as I can. I am a modern woman because every day I make no excuses and put the effort to become the best version of me. Sure, this is very inspiring and would make anybody a better person. And I would recommend following what all of these women say because it is good advice. But my problem with this quote and every other quote in the article is that you can replace the word woman with man and it will apply just as much to a man. So where is the differentiation between man and woman? If what a modern woman is can apply so directly to a man, what makes a modern woman so special, strong and independent when a man can apply exactly how she describes herself? That is another problem caused by feminism. However, in traditionalism, that problem ceases to exist. And there is the clear difference between man and woman. A woman is a person who has a feminine core, and the most important thing for her in life is freedom and love, meaning that she wants her love to be able to flow freely. She is more kind, caring, compassionate, nurturing, empathetic and emotional than a man. A man is a person who has a masculine core, and the most important thing for him in life is freedom in life, which means that he wants to live and do everything with no restriction from anything. He is more disciplined, driven, stoic, has higher stress tolerance and is more logical. It really is that simple, and it should be that binary. And I didn't even mention any physical differences. There are way more than enough differences mentally and spiritually to make a binary difference between the two. And small side note, I believe that feminism loosely led to children transitioning into becoming transgender. Because way back when feminism began, women were trying to stretch the idea of what a woman is so that they can get more out of their lives, as they didn't want to be just housewives anymore. And they stretched and stretched the definition of a woman so far, to the point where the difference between a man and a woman through a feminist's eyes is very blurry. And so this idea got more and more popular, until the point where women started to stretch what gender their child was, before deciding whether their children should transition into another gender, sometimes more than 10 years before the children can make that choice for themselves. So it means that the children are getting their genitals mutilated and also get put on hormone blocking pills, all because their delusional feminist mother think that's what's best. And I do believe I'm right, because how many fathers do you hear who make their children transition? So feminism is selfish and pretty awful, and there's not much benefit besides for the women, where even they end up resentful. Which is why traditionalism was the correct way before and will continue to be the correct way forward.